We've got to start off tonight with this bleak news, this bleak day for our Australian Defence Forces. It's a bleak day for the whole country. It's a shame on the whole nation. We've had our leadership now, military leadership, reveal to us the news that we've been bracing for a number of weeks, and they've revealed that they believe Australian soldiers unlawfully killed, in other words, murdered, 39 Afghan prisoners and civilians over a number of years. They also believe that 19 soldiers should face criminal action for these alleged war crimes. Here's the Chief of our Australian Defence Forces.
To the people of Afghanistan, on behalf of the Australian Defence Force, I sincerely and unreservedly apologise for any wrongdoing by Australian soldiers.
Such a dark day for our armed services, such a dark day for our country. This will be making news right across the world, of course, and it's one of the issues I raised with the Prime Minister when I spoke with him.
Where things don't measure up to those standards as a country, and indeed as a defence force, we look seriously at those issues, take them seriously and deal with them seriously to uphold those standards.
Yeah, lots more coming up on this issue and lots more in that wide-ranging interview with the Prime Minister, where I discussed with him the pandemic and also the troubled relationship between Australia and China at the moment. But one other issue I discussed with him, of course, was the way our state governments in South Australia, Western Australia, Queensland, Tasmania seem to be pushing for an eradication or elimination policy when it comes to the pandemic. Now, I told you yesterday that South Australia had overreacted by imposing a brutal lockdown of the state for 6 days on the basis of only 23 infections in a cluster in Adelaide's northern suburbs. You can see from the pictures here today that that lockdown is brutal. The streets were empty. Most South Australians forced to stay in their homes, not even allowed out to exercise. Shops shut, schools shut, universities shut, businesses shut down. Just a brutal lockdown. And of course, it turns out over the past 24 hours, there have been 0 additional infections. The news, the headlines today, 0 additional infections in South Australia over the past 24 hours, which of course covers a long period when the lockdown was not in place. Yet they've got now 5 days of lockdown to go for 0 infections. Have a listen to their Premier, Stephen Marshall.
Over 20,000 South Australians have been tested in just the last 48 hours. Over 12,000 tests were conducted yesterday alone. Record testing rates, proud South Australians in line for hours to be tested, knowing that the efforts of every one of us collectively make a big difference in how we get through this.
Record testing, thousands of people lining up for testing, no infections. People stopped from going to work, to school, businesses shut down, businesses losing money, people possibly losing their livelihoods, and he's proud of the people getting tested for 0 new infections. To tell you how crazy this stuff is, Victoria now has shut its border to South Australians for 48 hours. It's the first time Victoria has shut its borders. It doesn't want people from South Australia bringing the virus in, even though there were no infections today and there are only 22 in this cluster. At the same time, South Australia's border to Victoria is still closed. They don't want Victorians coming into South Australia and bringing the virus, even though there's been no new infections in Victoria for 20 days. This is the madness of the way our states are overreacting to this virus. And if you want to have a look at the role the media plays, have a look at this headline. It refers to the fact that this strain of the virus in South Australia is frightening because it's asymptomatic. It's a frightening strain of the virus because it delivers no symptoms. Think about that for a moment. They're saying that a virus is frightening because you don't know you have it. A virus is frightening because it does not make you sick. Now, let's hope it doesn't make anyone sick, but really, you've got to think about this. A virus that gives you no symptoms and does not make you sick is good news. It's good news.